Welcome to the Wabe. This is our first podcast. This podcast is designed to answer the many questions we all have. I know you have questions, and this podcast wants to address and discuss them. My name is Abraham Wright, or Abe, and I'm sitting next to Wade Burleson, or Wade. Wade is a historian. He is a author. Wade, how many books have you written?
Oh, boy, published 7 or 8, and there's several unpublished manuscripts coming out.
Yes, and so he's also a pastor, been the pastor here for 28 years at Emmanuel Enid. And Wade's blog, the last time I checked, millions of people have read it. Millions. I don't know if it's up to 7 million. So Wade is really known around the world. And again, I don't know what else to say about me other than I played a little bit in the NFL and I've had a few concussions. And by the grace of God, I got a master's degree recently. So
hey, congratulations on the master's degree. Yeah. How much did you play in the NFL? Hey.
1 year, 2007. 1 year. So.
But you were all Big 12 defensive end, right?
Yep.
So the questions that people are sending in, are they football questions or are they?
So these questions are going to be based on the Christian faith. Maybe you have objections. The Wabe, obviously our names kind of mushed together, but it can also stand for working at biblical encouragement. So working at biblical encouragement. And so I want you to know this question that I'm going to read, Wade has never heard this question. He wants to be live as if he's sitting on a bus and someone just asked him a question. I've kind of reviewed the question a little bit. I like to kind of take notes. But before we get to the question, very quickly, I want to remind you to do something. Number one, this is very important. Share this podcast with people. However you're viewing it, take some time and share it with those so they can also join into the discussion. And then also, if there's a place to comment below, write down your question or email us your question at wabequestions@gmail.com. Again, that is WABE questions with an S @gmail.com. So make sure you send in your questions.
And let me say something, Abe, before we get started, okay? If you're listening to this or watching, because it'll be video and audio on a podcast, this is our first one, and we just need you to understand our thinking, our rationale here. We want questions that you wish could be asked on Sunday morning at church. We want answers that are not only spontaneous, from the heart, real, raw, gritty. And one of the things you need to know about Abe and myself is that often we'll be behind closed doors and in an office and we'll banter, we'll get passionate, we'll dialogue, we're friends. We want you to understand that if we get passionate and disagree and so on, it's healthy, it's good. That's
and my job's not on the line too, right? So y'all heard it, okay. So if I disagree, you no longer see me on the podcast.
Hey, let me tell you, any church that demands agreement on all issues is a church you don't want to be a part of.
It's a cult, maybe.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. It's a cult. And last time I checked, we're not a cult.
There you go. Okay, so here's the first question. Wade, this question comes from my 9-year-old daughter, and don't let her age fool you. So she asked me this. If God already knew we were going to sin, why did he give us free will? Why did he give us a choice? That's coming up in a few minutes. All right, here we go, Wade. That's the question. If God already knew we were going to sin, why did he give us free will? I think a lot of people might wonder that. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, well, first of all, what is free will? I wish your daughter were here that I could ask her, what does she mean by free will? What do you mean?
The ability to choose evil. So God already knew that Adam and Eve were going to sin. He's all-knowing. So why did he give humans the ability to choose?
Yeah, well, let me say to you, I have a friend. I read him a lot. I know who he is. His name is Greg Boyd. He's an author. He does not believe God foreknew that Adam would sin. He does not believe that God foreknows that you will sin. And I don't want to get real technical, but this is called open theism. It's the idea that God intentionally limits his foreknowledge so that people can be truly free. Now,
Wow.
yeah, open theism. Now, I don't...
Or heresy.
Whoa!
Well, I don't want to say here. I don't know. But
No, I think the word heresy is thrown around way too much, Abe. Way too much.
So God has the ability to
Yes.
not know something.
Because he chooses to limit himself.
Maybe similar to Jesus when he said,
Absolutely.
only the Father knows
Absolutely.
the day of the hour.
Yeah.
In Matthew 24,
It's
I
not that
think.
Jesus couldn't know. It's just that he emptied himself, the gospel says, Philippians, Paul's letter,
Yeah.
voluntarily for our benefit. So, open theism says God chooses not to know so that we can truly be free. Now, I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
But for heaven's sake, I would never call it heresy.
Okay, so maybe that's a strong word. My thoughts as I was contemplating on this question, Wade, was God's ability to know something, it doesn't dismiss our ability to choose. So, for example, I'll tell my daughters, they're 7 and 9, to go clean their room. And as they're cleaning their room, I can be in the other room and I will yell out, hey, make sure you keep cleaning. And I'm not even in the room, but I already assume that they've gotten distracted. But it doesn't dismiss that they have a choice to actually clean their room. And I'm a human being. So I would say this, God's ability to know what we're going to choose doesn't mean we don't have a choice.
Of course.
He's all-knowing. He's outside of time. You believe that?
Of course.
Yeah, so he created time, but that doesn't mean we don't have free will.
Of course. I agree with you. But let's ask you a question. Let's say that you own a store and a criminal comes in with a gun and he points it at you and says, I'm robbing you. Empty your cash drawer, give me the money. Okay? You empty the cash drawer, give him the money, he leaves, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now I want to ask you a question. And I'm putting it in the context of your 9-year-old. Let's say you have the ability to know that the man with the gun is coming into the store. What she's asking is, if you know that he's coming into the store, why would you not prevent him from coming in? So I think your daughter's saying, if God knows that you're going to sin, that you have free will, why doesn't he stop it? I don't know. Is that what you think she's saying or not?
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe I'll ask her when she gets out of school. But I will say this. This is not popular, Wade, and you might push back on this. Here's another angle of approaching this question. There is a danger in our culture sometimes of overanalyzing, I think sometimes, about the things of God, really questioning, maybe to a degree our mind shouldn't go. And maybe this is far stretching it, but in Romans 9, if you read that chapter, Paul deals with some deep theology, some very alarming words about God's sovereignty, how him choosing Israel. But then Paul seems to get in the mind of the human being. And this is what he says in Romans 9. Just listen to this. Romans 9, 19 through 20. Paul writes, well then, you might say, why does God blame people for not responding? Haven't they simply done what he makes them do? No, he writes, don't say that. Who are you, a mere human being, to argue with God? Should the thing that was created say to the one who created it, why have you made me like this? That's Romans 9, 19 through 20. Now, that may not grow our podcast. That's not that popular. That's going to make people very frustrated. But that's in the Bible. And because this is working at biblical encouragement, when I think of someone saying, well, if God already knows, then why did he give us a choice? Maybe Paul is saying, hey, maybe you shouldn't even be asking that question.
Well,
is that stretching it?
No, I don't think it's stretching it, Abe, but I don't think people understand that. I think I know where you're coming from. I know your heart. But let's get down to brass tacks. Let's get down to today. Yeah. Let's get down to sin. Because the question is, can a person sin and God know about it? And because he knows about it, is he able to prevent it? And if he doesn't prevent it, why not?
Wow.
And let me see if I can't throw something out.
Yeah.
that's real practical. Anything good that comes into our lives is from God.
Yeah.
Every good and perfect gift comes from Him. But everything wrong in our lives comes from us. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Or our enemy.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Darkness.
Yeah.
Okay, there's no fellowship of light with darkness. So there's a great battle going on in our hearts and in our minds and in our lives, right?
Yeah.
So the question is, if God loves us and is gracious and merciful and kind and all-powerful, can He not prevent us from going into the store and robbing?
I think sometime He has in the Bible.
Very good, He has. But what about those occasions when He doesn't prevent it? And I'm going to give an answer that I think you might agree with, and I hope your 9-year-old daughter can understand. God will sometimes allow us freely to make choices that are painful and sinful, because on the other side of our pain, He's doing something even greater than He could have done without it.
Okay, so He allows us to make that choice
Yes.
of sin that leads to pain because He has something greater in mind.
Yeah, and I'll give you an illustration. And I know this is corny, but when I think you've heard it before when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And my mom would say, "Hey, Wade, stop playing with the iron." I had this crazy habit of picking up a cold iron and kissing it.
Oh,
yeah. But she knew that sometime I might pick up a hot iron and kiss it, right?
Yeah.
Are you with me?
Yeah.
Okay, so one day she had turned the iron on. It wasn't cold. She knew it wasn't cold, but she knew it also wasn't searing hot. Okay, so she allows me, though she sees me, she allows me in my freedom to pick up this warm, getting hotter iron, and I kiss it, and oh, gosh, it hurt.
Wow.
Guess what, Abe?
You hadn't kissed an iron again?
I have never kissed an iron again, but my wife still calls me Hot Lips.
Okay, all right. So, again, the question is, if God already knows that we're going to sin, maybe even going back to Adam and Eve, of course, why did He give us free will? We've kind of shared our thoughts.
And well, here's the summary, though.
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
If you go back to Adam and Eve in the garden, God allowed that to occur because through what He's done through His Son, Jesus Christ, greater glory comes to Him and greater freedom, rest, mercy, grace, forgiveness comes to us. So I would say this. A.W. Pink was a friend of my grandfather's.
Wow.
Written many books. A.W. Pink said this. God is more glorified through the fall of Adam than if Adam had never sinned. He's more glorified through the person and work of Jesus Christ. And so I would just say, Abe, I know you're about to close us out. I would just say to anybody listening, you may have made some stupid mistakes in your life. I have, Abe has. We've done stupid things, hurtful things, painful things. But understand this, God is still on His throne. You are a free person. You have free will. But God in His love for you is able to take what you've done, which is wrong and painful and hurtful and sinful, and He can turn it around for you, for His glory. That's the kind of God we serve.
Wow. So we didn't do much fighting like we do in the office.
Oh, no, but that's coming up next week.
So here, I want to encourage you again. Share this podcast with those in your circle of influence on social media. Also, comment below. Let us know a question that you have. And then remember this email, wabequestions@gmail.com. Again, that is WABE, questions with an S, @gmail.com. Remember that email. Anytime you have a question, send us that email. We're going to release a podcast every single week. I believe it's going to be Thursdays.
The Wabe Podcast.
The Wabe Podcast, working at biblical encouragement. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.